Hello, my name is Paula Stansberry, and I'd like to share with you a little bit about why I think you should consider me for your teaching position. Let me tell you a little bit about myself.
Dreams that you dream of, dreams really do come true. Ooh, someday you wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind. Be where trouble melts like lemon drops, high above the chimney top. That's where you find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow. Bluebirds fly, and the dreams that you dare to, oh, why can't well, I see trees of green and red roses too. I watch them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Well, I see skies of blue and I see clouds of white and the brightness of day. I like the dark and I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Hello, my name is Paula Stansberry, and for the last 8 years I have been the preschool minister at First Baptist Church in Wake Village, Texas. Today we're going to talk a little bit about safety and security and what measures you can take at your church to ensure that your children are safe and secure. The first thing we're going to talk about are our door systems. We're going to talk about doors. I'm going to show you, if you'll look this way, these are our main entrance to our preschool building. And in a moment, we're going to take a little trip back to the back, and I'm going to show you the other doors. And we're going to talk about why this is so important. So our church, we're in a preschool building separate to the main sanctuary. And we have, this is where our preschoolers are. Our children are in another facility. But our preschoolers, our little bitty kids, they're in this building. This would be newborns through kindergarten. And it has 3 entrances. And so I'm going to show you where they're at. The main thing we want to remember is that you want to have one entrance and one exit, preferably the same door. Now your other doors, you will have to have emergency exits, and ours have those breakaway bar things where you push it and the door comes open from the inside, but from the outside it's locked. You can't get in. Okay, so the reason you want to do this is because you could have people coming in or out, and you want to make sure that at all times you know who is in your building. That is the most important thing. Let me back up a little bit. You want to talk about lighting, because in your entrance you want to make sure that it's a well-lit area, especially at night during the winter months when people are coming in and going out. You want to make sure that it's well-lit. You want to make sure that it's free from anything in the floor they could slip or fall on. You want to make sure the floor is dry and it's not wet from a rainy umbrella or somebody tracking in mud or whatever. Those are just basic things. But what we're really talking about are keeping it safe from outside intruders. So you're going to want to make sure that you have that just one entrance that's really the main place. And right here, you can see this is our main vestibule, lobby area, whatever you want to call it, in our preschool building. When someone brings their child in, there is someone here. Generally, it's me and several other ladies or men to greet the family, to help the child to get adjusted and take them to their class. So let me show you the other two exits and what we do in those other two exits. Follow me down the hall. We're going to pass some of our little rooms and we're going to go to the back end of our building. Okay, notice this is the back of our building. We have one door on this end that goes to our playground area. We keep that door locked all the time. But if it were not locked, it wouldn't be quite as big a deal because that fence, there's a fence around the preschool area, the preschool playground, excuse me, and that fence has a chain and it has a lock on it all the time. So then we go to this door. This is the door that is closest to our sanctuary. When they built our building, they kind of turned it around. And so this is the door that is closest to the sanctuary, making this the door that's most convenient to get to your kids. But we keep it locked. And why do we do that? Well, you want to make sure that those doors are locked so that you don't have children wandering out. That's your number one reason. And there are other reasons. Sometimes you could have intruders, and we want to make sure that we do not have any terrorists. We're living in a day with terrorists, and as scary as that is, Christians and church people kind of being number one on the terrorist hit list. So we want to make sure that's very unlikely, but we want to make sure that doors are kept locked. Not that they couldn't break in if they wanted to, but they're locked. We want to make sure that if there's a domestic dispute next door, Mr. Jones or whatever, who may be running from the law, doesn't race in here and go to grab a classroom full of kids for hostages. And that you said that, oh, that would never happen. But it could happen. Could happen. And there's no way to foresee that. But if the door's locked, he's going to get to the door and he's going to, oh, that's locked. He's going to run to another door or another building. So another thing you want to remember are parents. We live in a day of divorce, and it's scary and it is sad. And parents generally a lot of times don't stay married. Some do, some don't. We want to make sure that we have a custody situation, that you don't let the child leave with the wrong parent or grandparent or whoever it is trying to pick the kid up. You want to make sure that that child leaves with the parent they're supposed to leave with. And that is our job. Our ultimate job is to make sure that that child is safe at all times and that they are protected. So we want to make sure that the kid does not have access to someone at the back door. Someone couldn't come in the back door and get a kid out of class and leave with them without our knowledge. So that's why we keep these doors locked. One other thing that I want to mention is that parents do not always want to cooperate. They have the best intentions, and most of the time it's just a convenience thing. So for the longest time, we had parents continue to use the back door. And we sent letters home, and they continued to use the back door. And so we sent more letters home, and they continued to use the back door. So what we did, come with me just a little bit, I'll show you what we did. We bought an inexpensive alarm system, little stop alarm system. It works off a couple of magnets at the door. If anyone, when it's on, anyone breaks this door or pops the door open, it sounds off this really loud, blah, 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 awful sound. Everybody knows you broke the rule, for one thing. And we had a couple of times where that happened, but for the most part, people didn't use the door. So don't expect that it's going to go over well if you want to block a door that people want to use, because people generally will complain. But it is the safety of the kids, and that to me is what's most important. So let's go back up front and we'll talk about another system that we have in place. Now we're back in our area. We're going to the front area. We're going to talk about signing in and out and dropping off and picking up. When we have parents bring their children in on Sunday morning or Wednesday night or whatever, our procedure is we have them to take a folder like this with their name. Has a yellow information sheet with their child's name in it and information. Then it has a signing in, signing out form with their information. And they must sign in who they are. When they pick them up, they sign their name again. This also has listed people who are able to pick the child up other than the parental guardian, the primary guardian, and people who are not allowed to. Now, sometimes you'll get a parent in that you don't recognize. You don't know this person. Maybe mom signed the kid up for Awana, but dad is listed. He can pick them up, but you don't know dad. What do we do? Well, it is not a bad thing to ask dad to see his driver's license. Could I please see your driver's license, Dad? And Dad, if he's a good dad, he's not going to be offended because he knows that you're doing it for the safety of his child. You will get some that will gripe and argue, and you just say, I'm so sorry to inconvenience you, but just to be on the safe side, we always want to check everyone's driver's license that we don't know. And you leave it at that. You don't apologize for that. That's just what it is. You're just checking. So we've had some other systems we've tried. We tried a card system where you were given a card and you had to bring the card every time you picked the child up, which a lot of parents would forget the card. And then they want you to give them their child without the card. And so today, yes, Miss Dorothy, I'm going to give you the card. I'm going to give you the child without the card. But next time, please remember to bring your card. But what happens is next time, Miss Dorothy says, well, she let me have my kid without that card last time, so I'm just not going to worry with taking that card. Or maybe she just forgets again. So if you let Miss Dorothy have the child without the card, there might be Mr. Bob over here, and Mr. Bob really isn't supposed to pick up his kid. Maybe he's not on the list. Maybe it's a custody thing and he doesn't have custody. But he might say, well, you let Miss Dorothy have that child without that card, and why won't you let me have, I'm his daddy. See, he's calling me daddy. I'm his daddy, obviously. Why will you not let me have this child without the card? So that brings you into kind of a sticky situation. So we also tried a label system. Labels, there were 2 matching labels, and they had a matching number that corresponded between the 2. Mom would take a label to church with her every morning, each week when they came, and then the child would leave a label on the back. We would put it on the back of them. Well, what happened was the labels would get lost in the Bibles, and then the parents would take the Bible to the car. They would forget to bring the Bible with them to pick their child up. And then the little kids in the classroom would pull the labels off of their buddies' back because it was fun to peel that label on and off. So that really wasn't the best system. So then we tried that system for a while. So then we went to the folder system, which is really good because it gives a quick reference for teachers of personal information and allergies that are listed on here. And it also gives us a record of when the child was here, when they were out, who brought them, that sort of thing. So one other thing I want to tell you about before we get off here and call it a quit. So I'm going to talk about dropping off and picking up as far as, do you let your parents go to the classroom? Most churches, they do. We've been here for a long, long time. But we decided that it's really better if the parent stay in the front area while you as the teacher or you as the preschool minister or you as the front counter person, whatever, take the child back to the classroom in the morning. And then when it's time to be picked up, they will come in and they'll say, my name is Bob and I'm here to pick up little Susie from class. So, hang on just a moment, Bob. Let me get her for you. I'll be right back. And you go back to the class and you say, I need Susie. Her dad's here. And you come back up here and you give Dad the child after he's signed her out and he's the approved person to sign her out. Why do we do that? Well, the reason we do that is because when you get parents going back in the rooms, parents like to talk, they like to visit. It clogs up the traffic. Parents are not always the most patient, so sometimes they may not want to wait their turn. Sometimes they have something important to talk to the teacher about and they don't need a lot of other people to hear it. Sometimes it just gives this little kid an opportunity to run through the legs and out the door they go, which is what happened to me right after I started here. had a little girl. She's about 18 months old. I'm sitting here trying to take care of parent after parent after parent in line, and while I'm doing that, this 18-month-old was packing my legs, and we didn't have gates on the door at that time. Out she goes, and here comes her mother down the hall, and they were visiting, and it was awful, and I don't think they ever came back. It was just awful. So I said to myself that day, this will never happen again. We put gates on the doors so they can't just whoop out the door, and we made sure we had other procedures in place. Lastly, I just want to talk to you a little bit about how to get parents to get on board with you. It's not always a fun thing to make parents do things that are not convenient, that maybe they're running late for church and they just want to drop and go, and you make them come in and sign or fill out paperwork or anything like that. So the problem is, it's all about safety. And as your job as the preschool minister or the children's minister is to ensure the safety of those children in your area. And that's your number one priority. I mean, yes, you want to teach them about God, but while they're in your care, you want to make sure they're not harmed in any way. So you have to emphasize that to parents. You have to send lots of notes home and explain why you're doing what you're doing. Yes, I'm so sorry that it's inconvenience, but your child means so much to me. We love that child. We don't want anything to happen to that child while they're in our care. And so most parents, if they're good parents, they will understand that you just have their child's best interests at heart. Sometimes they don't. And you just have to say, I'm so sorry, that's our policy. And you have to really be strict about it, and you have to be consistent. And don't apologize for making those policies and putting them into place, because that is your job. Thank you so much, and I hope you'll come back to one of my videos again where we're going to talk about some other things to do with security and safety in our buildings. And it's just a really great opportunity to learn new things. Thank you so much. Thanks.